Greetings. I would love to express to everyone, if you don't know it for sure, consciously, to be true, then I want you to try to hear me when I say that the sci-fi movie The Matrix is an extremely accurate presentation of the human situation, with a few alterations, with a few basic differences. One of them being well, obviously it's not robots exactly. It's not a computer system. In a sense, it is, though. It is an artificial intelligence matrix. It really is. It's just much more versatile than just being made out of metal and silicone chips and the type of things that we think of as robotics and computers and algorithms and all that. No. You have to think along the same type of terms as all the life you see. See, if you actually look at all the world you see from the perspective of like a computer program, virtual reality simulation, you start to look at the computer, the actual programming power and processing speed it would take to render these things in the way it is. And it's being rendered in the same way that a video game does that, which is a video game doesn't create the whole city that you're exploring. It only creates the portion that is being explored by the character in that moment, and it keeps rendering it. So the character really never moves. There's just an ever-changing landscape. This is what's happening right here too. We're just all sharing in our projections networked together through our individual nodes. We truly are in a matrix. Now, matrices, understand, are the way that consciousness creates matter. The way that the 3D experiential plane, meaning having three dimensions, having spatial dimensions, space and time, the way it is, and there are spatial dimensions that are not connected to time, and there are spatial dimensions not connected to linear time. There are all sorts of different experiential ways to experience things that still have a physicality to them in some way. Normally, understand, this is something that causes a huge amount of confusion in most people. When people say light beings, and I used to think this too, I used to think that just meant we're just a ball of light, or we're just a field of light. That may be the way that a lower density person would experience that being, not necessarily the way that being is experiencing themselves. In my experience, we are experiencing ourselves much as we are now, except with with color and shape and a body, the appearance of a body. Except in the higher dimensions, we know the body is just an appearance. We can change it at will. Doesn't mean that we still just want to appear as a blank wall all the time, or everyone the same ball of light. No, because we keep many of our individual characteristics from the lower realms as attributes and expressions of ourselves in the higher realms, because that's what they are. So to understand then that these matrices are part of the structure of the universe, of the physical universe, and even what some people call the non-physical universe. Those realms are also created through light matrices. But the matrix I'm referring to is the false light matrix, or the fallen matrix, the fallen grid. That is the control matrix. And what I want you to really understand about that is that, like the movie The Matrix, you indeed have agents trying to keep you plugged into that control. Now, what it means to be unplugged from that matrix, and it really is a plug in the back of your chakra. There really are. See, if we look out here at nature, at all the kingdoms and the forest, if we look in the oceans, everywhere we look, at the bottom of the ocean, at those volcanic vents that are spewing out sulfuric acid and all sorts of noxious to human chemicals at insane temperatures, 400, 500 degrees, right? We find life, okay? And this is just what human scientists recognize as life. The truth is, there's nothing but life. There is no condition of not life. That does not exist, because existence itself is life, and non-existence does not exist. So, what this means then, and it can be incredibly complex to understand the dynamics of the astral realm, but as I've said before, in many ways they can be thought of a mirror as the third dimensional realm and the fifth dimensional realm. All these things mirror each other. They are all holographic. But in the fourth density, in the lower fourth density astral, we find a lot of kind of elemental beings and thought form beings. So like I've told you before, this area is heavily populated by those dreams and nightmares that humans have given power to. This has attracted all sorts of other entities because we have created all sorts of hellscapes and heavenscapes in the fourth dimension. These places then became home, as every other ecological niche will, to entities which vibrated with that frequency. So if we're talking about realms that humans would call despair or suffering or fear or aggression, then here comes a life form or elemental which can live off that energy. So, in the same way, if you go out into the woods, right, mosquitoes will bite you. Well, as long as you're in the third density woods or in a lower fourth density woods. If you're in the fifth density woods, no mosquito will bite you. But still, you can understand the example of what I'm saying. So now, if we look at our childhood traumas, these traumas that we can't deal with, that we push down, that we suppress, these create knots, buildups, patterns, tears, rips, stretches, dilutions, curves, warps in our aura and energetic fields. These allow what you would call astral parasites. These astral parasites are constantly siphoning out your energy into the matrix. They're all agents of the matrix. They're all plugged into the inverted false light matrix. The inverted false light matrix can only hold you if you stay within its power frequency. If you jump up into the energy levels of unconditional love or up, it cannot hold you. Now you can pop out of it and then pop back in. You can pop out and pop back in. But if you stay out long enough, the actual implants and nodal points that connect you to the lower matrix, again, which is a real thing. It is an energetic thing, yes, but as much as you can see this reality around you and call this a real place, you can consider the matrix a real thing and trust that you are in it. Now, when compared to the world or matrix above it, the fifth dimensional world is also a matrix, but it is a much bigger matrix, and it is a matrix made with you in mind. It is a matrix made for you to experience, love, and explore. While the third dimensional matrix is a matrix made to teach you to create extreme pressure for extreme growth. But from the perspective of the agents which are programmed into the matrix and which are created within that matrix program and which fall to that matrix and then work for the matrix, all the energy that is lost by the souls that play in the game, that enter the lower density matrix, all of those that enter the fallen matrix, all that energy that we've spent lost to the matrix can use to turn against us. And that's why the dream has been so powerful and so hard to break. So if you have not seen what I'm talking about, at some point you will. But I want you to understand this, because some people hear the term pop out of the matrix, leave the matrix, exit the matrix, and they think it means various different things. We mean something that changes your total perspective and allows sudden view of things that were prior to that hidden. Now, perhaps, and I certainly can't say how everyone else perceives this matrix. Many perceive it just like me, and I know that, you know, for the most part, because someone made a movie that mimics exactly my experience, you know. Granted, I saw the movie before I woke up, but I had no idea. I could see the amazing polarities, you know, similarities and parallels between life and the matrix, but not until after waking and really seeing the totality and truth of this thing did I realize this is a direct message from higher authorities to try to help wake us up. You know, this is a release, this is a disclosure. This is, I say all this because I want you to understand the urgency, the importance of truly exiting this matrix, which does, just like everyone has said, it starts with silence. It starts by returning to the heart space repeatedly. Anytime, because that's the main thing I'm trying to explain to you, that is that, okay, let me not confuse you. You cannot, through your will as a personality, if you're not unplugged from the matrix fully right now, and you either know that or you're unsure, because you would be sure if you were out, so you're not out if you're not sure. So the personality, again, does not have the capability to unplug itself from the matrix. So the personality is only you inside the matrix. It's your creation while you've been inside the matrix, and all the energy and all the things you've thought about it, and all the alterations and distortions that the matrix has given to you, and all the programs it's running on you. So, and that's what we call karma. So again, in order for you to get out, you know, silence, the reason silence and moving to the heart space are the ways out. First of all, is the heart is the most direct connection to yourself that's outside the matrix, which is trying to guide you out. Okay? Silence is first of all, it's infinite and all that. And I've explained all this before, you know, the power of silence and emptiness. But just as it pertains to this matrix, it is you not paying attention to the input of data that you are receiving from the matrix nodes, basically. So, in all the ways that the matrix is trying to lead you through your physical body sensations, your emotional body sensations, and your mental body sensations, you disregard it. You give it no mind, and you keep putting your attention on the silence, the ground state of your being, and the feeling of your heart space. Again, the feeling of love, the feeling of expansiveness, whatever you feel inside you as joy, positivity, because these are coming from outside the matrix. So they're literally leading you home. Again, at some point, though, you will be able to actually cross a threshold where all these implants will actually unattach from you. And it won't be a physical thing, of course, it's an etheric, energetic thing, but you will be quite aware that it has happened, so it is a real thing, you know. But it's also important because this is why I say that to really truly forgive everyone and everything comes to understand that we are all being, or all have been, manipulated. Because as long as you are plugged into that lower density matrix, it can literally erase thoughts, erase whole timelines. It can erase days, it can erase hours, it can manipulate you, it can confuse you. That's why it can put you straight into a mental institute if it wants, until you start to get free of it, until you start to empower yourself, until you've gotten high enough up the ladder that you can actually start to hear your higher self and then start to not hear the matrix, start to move above its noise. Then you start to suddenly see, well, what the f is going on here, you know? So in that way, when every impression we get, everything we hear, every thought we have, all of it, first of all, it's actually can be quite helpful to think of all the thoughts that you experience, and actually all the experiences, all of them, as not you at all, but an interface that your soul is having. It's literally like a virtual reality interface. So the ego, or the negative programming that you have received, is not you, and it's not even in you. It's in the interface. It's in the interface. And what we're trying to do here is free your avatar enough from the matrix interface that your higher self can reprogram you into a neo, back into the system as a virus to the lower density matrix, a virus carrying love and light, to shatter their whole false grid, because it's reliant on our power. We are powering it. It could not exist without us. It was not there before we created it. You know, it wasn't created all at once. We've been feeding it and falling and falling and slipping and slipping and slipping for a long time. Peace and power to you, God. Again, if we can understand then that we are being, or can be, manipulated, not only in our vision, but in all our senses and the memories and the participation of other characters in the Matrix, and not only by the agents of the Matrix and the parasites, but by the algorithm of the Matrix itself. See, because again, the fifth dimensional Matrix, while it is much larger and much more powerful than the 3D Matrix, the 3D Matrix operates in a very specific frequency range. And in that frequency range, it is almost magnetic. It is very dense, very hard to get out of if you're in those specific vibrational ranges. And that is why the algorithm seeks so hard to keep you in certain ranges. That's why, you know, in the Christian religions and most all religions really, when they say you try to turn over your life, that's when the devil or the darkness tries to get you. That's when everything goes bad, you know. Numerous reasons for that, you know, it's partly just a result of shining a light on things, you know, you expose things that you were ignoring before. But it is also, in fact, that the Matrix is attempting to hold you within the lower dimensional frequencies in participation with all of those agents and entities that have given themselves over to the Matrix. So in this way, then, though if we are confused by the thoughts that we are experiencing or the sensations we are receiving, if we are confused about the truth or validity or what is right or wrong or where to go or where not to go, our heart is the compass. And if you can't discern from there, then decide nothing. Go to silence and stay there until the situation clarifies. But in general, the heart is the compass. You go to the heart, check, you go deep into your center, and you see how things feel from there. That's the perspective that the Matrix will make perfect sense from. That is the perspective which will allow you to see through the Matrix to the higher 5D Matrix and even above. So in the movie, you know, in the Matrix, he woke up from the simulation into the real world, and then he would go back into the simulation and be able to alter the simulation at will. So I want to make it clear, we're not trying to leave the world and go into some desolate landscape, for sure. Nor are we right now trying to go into the transcendent realms of ultimate bliss and unity. with all that is. We are trying to, right now, again, we don't even have to exit the 3D matrix and then fly somewhere through a portal to the 5D matrix. We are in the 5D matrix now. The 3D matrix is a subset bandwidth of the 5D matrix. It is an algorithm virus, basically, within the 5D matrix. So all you have to do is stop interfacing enough with your avatar. You have to stop interfacing enough with the 3D matrix that you notice the 5D matrix that's always there anyways. It's the 3D matrix basically hypnotizes you. When you notice that frequency, that's the matrix you see around you. It's like a holographic overlay. When you stop interfacing with that frequency enough and move into the frequency of the expansiveness of unconditional love and unity in the fifth dimensional matrix, while still maintaining an avatar, it allows you to reprogram. Your higher self can then reprogram the avatar, and then you can move back into the 3D matrix carrying the higher 5D matrix codes, avatar codes, and begin to alter the 3D matrix, and reprogram it into the 5D matrix, where everyone can alter reality at will. Love and light be yours.